Now we'll learn about class diagram. As you know, from the object-oriented programming and this sort of uh, uh, courses, that there are classes, and in our information system or the software, we need to design some class for our system, and the those classes will have some relations with other classes. So the class diagram identifies this relation of and the classes of a system. In general, class diagram depicts classes and their interrelations. So identifies the classes we need to uh, uh, develop for the system and their interrelations. It's actually a structured diagram, and it also describes some behaviors because it represents some relations. It provides a conceptual model of the system in terms of objects and their relations. As is a class diagram. So class, we need to identify the classes based on the objects and then the relationships. It is used for requirement capture and end user interaction. So from the requirement, we will identify the classes and then the user interaction for with those classes. And the detailed class diagram actually used for the developers. So your system developers will use the detailed class diagram to develop the system. The components of class diagram, there are two main components. The first one is the classes and the second one is the relations. So if you see an example class diagram, this is a exemplary class diagram. You see here we have some classes and their relations. So this rectangular box is a class, and inside the class there are some other attributes or components. So you can say here from inside the class there are four things. At first, the name of the class, then attributes or variables, then the methods or functions of this class, and finally the visibility, that means is it public or private, this sort of things. So all the attributes and the methods are uh, defined their visibility. So you need to define this visibility also. So first we identify those classes and then the relation between classes. Let's see what are the relations. There are mainly four type of relationship here. The first one is generalization, that is if you go back to the use case diagram, that is the parent child relation or inheritance relation. So we need to identify those relation also in the class diagram, because the parent class and child class relation should be shown in the diagram. Then the association, so when one class is use the functionality or uh, attribute of another class, that can be linked with association rules. In the association there are two types of relation, aggregation and composition. We'll see in details in the later slide. Then the multiplicity, or how two classes are connected, like one to many, many to one, this sort of things. So we'll describe them in later slide. So the first component is the class in class diagram. So you already saw the structure of a class. Class in a class diagram contains mainly three parts. At first, the top, which represents the class name, contains the name of class, and it should be printed as bold and centered, and the first character is capitalized. So the basic convention of the class name should be followed here, and additionally in the class diagram the class name should be bold and centered or aligned in center. Then in the middle part there should be the attributes or the variables of that class. So for attributes they should be left aligned, they should not be centered. And with the attribute there should be the visibility sign, like we'll see the visibility in the later slide. So with the attributes or with the variable name we should mention the visibility. One thing there is important, that is a class may contain 20 or 30 of variables. So should we mention all of them? Actually, in the class diagram we should mention only the primary or principal attributes. Those are required to show, and it's easy for the reader to understand the attributes. But in detailed class diagram we show or represents all the attributes. Then in the bottom there should be the methods. So methods means the functions of a class. So we should uh, 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 we should so we should so we should mention all the all the in the bottom we should represent all the methods of the class. So methods or the functions of the class should be in the last box. For your information, that the methods should have some body and some return type, right? So in the short class diagram we just we just put the method body, method name, sorry, the method name, not the signatures like the return type or the parameters. But in the detailed class diagram we should also put all the return types and parameters of the function. So with all this we uh, find out the class. And then the visibilities. The visibility means the methods and the attributes are how can be accessed by other class or this sort of thing. So you as you know from object oriented programming, that there are three types of visibility, like public, private and protected. So we need to indicate all three. That public means it's all can access, private means uh, only the uh, class and the child class can access, and the protected means the uh, it can be accessed by the package. And the package is also can be drawn here like as a variable. If it is a package, then it should be indicated by the uh, by this sign. Then another types of visibility is or type of variable we use, that is derived. The derived means the variable that is not actually provided by any of the parties. For example, the age. So when we take someone's age, we just know the date of birth. So from date of birth we calculate that age. Or many other can be, for example, the mm, current balance of your banking system. So for balance there shouldn't be any specific variable like balance. So balance can be uh, computed by your debit and credit. So all the debits and all the credits can be combined for identify the balance. Then if a variable or a method is static, then it should be underlined. So this sort of visibility should be there. So usually we say that if you do not uh, mention any visibility, it's private. So but you need to specify all the visibility of the methods and attributes. So after finding the class and its attributes and methods, we should assign them visibility. Now the relationship or relation notions in the class diagram. So there are lots of relations that can be mentioned in class diagram. For example, the generalization or the inheritance can be represented by the hollow triangle on towards the parents. Then the realization or implementation. So if we have some uh, interface, then we need to uh, we need to draw that implementation. So an interface should be implemented some class. Then the dependency, so if some class has the dependency over another class, then that should be represented by the by this type of arrow. Then the association, so associations means connected. For example, if you say that a tree and its leaves, they should be connected. So if you have an entity for tree and also another entity for leaves, so you can associate them, right? So this sort of relation can be drawn here. Then from association, we say that we have two types of association, like aggregation and composition. Aggregation and composition will be described in the next slide in details. So as you know, for the generalization, it represents the parent-child relation. For example, here we have the payment class. It's the base class, and it has three child class like credit, cash, and check. So this relation is represented by the generalization. But you see that the common attributes should be put in the parent class, like all these three type of payment should have a amount, so we bring the amount field in the payment. Then uh, the authorization, so you see that credit card need to authorization, or check may need to authorization or signature, these sort of things, but cash doesn't need authorization. So that's why this authorization comes into the child classes, not in the parent class. So these sort of things you know from object oriented programming, so we do not want to describe it in detail. So these sort of things can be represented here. So all the parent child relation should be represented in the generalization form. Then the association, as we said that it represents the relationship between classes. So in the association relation, you need to as you see that there should some things, like some external additional things, like if we say that a student and a course is a two entity or two class, then they have some connections. For example, if the system provide like a one student cannot take other than 4 courses, so this relation has some multiplicity, like student need to be connected with 4 courses, and one course can be enrolled by the many students. So star means many, so this relationship is named by enrollment. So all the relation in association, the relationship may have a name, and this name can be put here. So you may note that this relationship name may not be a mandatory field, you may be put or may not be put. Then how they are related can also be presented here. For example, student has 4 courses, so there should be, so student is connected with course with the relation has, and course has the relation with student with enrolls, course enrolls many students. So this relation also can be represented here. So this is how we identify the course and relations, the relation between the classes, and associate them by these rules.